When I, at 46 years old, one of the top 20 recognizable people in the United States in financial services, with jet, it's at my disposal, and helicopter on the roof of my building, and high profile guy, right? Decides I'm not enjoying this anymore. I've got thousands of employees. It's not fun for me anymore. And I think life should be more about having fun and having passion. I think that's what causes you to be successful. There's no way that I'm not going to take a big bite out of the apple called life. And I'm going to sit down and figure out all the things that I want to do before I die. And I'm going to take that list and start checking the boxes.
Okay, today, welcome back to episode 5. We've got a real treat today. Somebody I met over 25 years ago, and I've stayed in touch with, and who's been a great inspiration to me and has done some remarkable things in his life and really helped a lot of other CEOs and entrepreneurs. His name is Jack Daly. I want to welcome Jack to the podcast. Welcome, Jack.
Bob, once I got the invite from you, all I can tell you is I am excited because I have no idea where we're going to go on this podcast, and that is really fun.
That's great. Well, you're one of my favorite people, and the amount of energy that you bring to a situation, positive energy, has always been so great. For our guests, I want to tell them a little bit about Jack. We met at a YEO conference, I think back in 1998, 25 years ago, in Toronto. And Jack's accomplished quite a bit in his life. He's written over 10 books. His latest one came out last year called Life by Design. He's run over 100 marathons, one in all 50 states and one on each of the 7 continents, including Antarctica. 15 full Ironmans. A captain in the Army. He's in the Guinness Book of World Records, represented Team USA for the triathlon. And he's one of the most predominant CEO coaches in the world, and is very, very sought after. So welcome again, Jack.
Yeah. So I listened to that, Bob, and I'm saying, how many hours in a day does this guy get? Because there aren't enough to cover what you just said.
Well, if anybody knows, and there's something about Jack, hours in the day, he tracks everything meticulously. And we'll get into that a little later. But, he could tell you how many push-ups he did last year.
I could actually tell you whether I flossed my teeth each day of the year.
So why don't we start, by... Let's talk about your newest book that just came out, and it's called Life by Design. And I think that would be a great place to start, because it really, I think, sets something up around, what you want to do with your life and how do you do it. And, and I think you've lived your whole life like this. And so it's less about the book, but more about you and your philosophy in life and how you set things up for success.
Yeah. So the book looks like this, and all 9 books that preceded this were on business, and this is an outlier. This is how to lead an exceptional life, intentionally led. If you go out in front of an audience, as I do often, as you know, and I ask the question, by a show of hands, how many of you would like to be more successful than you are already? Well, how many hands are up? As many as people in the room. Everybody's hand is up. But if I leave the stage and pick on different people and say, so share with the audience what success means to you, we get crickets. And so you can't get there if you don't know what there is. So I married my high school sweetheart. I met her at 16 years old. Her name was Bonnie. And we had a great run together. 47 years of marriage, 52 years of being together. And I lost her 6 years ago to pancreatic cancer. But when we first got together, we're learning about each other and our families. And what we discovered is that both of our parents were having a similar conversation with the male and female, the husband and wife. And the conversation basically said this: when we retire, we're going to do A, B, and C. Well, both of our dads passed away around the age of 50. And so whatever that, when we retire, we're going to do A, B, and C, well, it never happened. And I said, there's no way that I'm not going to take a big bite out of the apple called life. And I'm going to sit down and figure out all the things that I want to do before I die. And I'm going to take that list and start checking the boxes. And I will tell you that process started even before then, because at 13 years old, I interviewed over 50 successful people on how they became successful. And there was a commonality amongst many of them, and that was, you got to have goals, don't pick too many, put them in writing, put a date when you're going to get things done, and share them with other people so that it puts accountability or pressure on you. So I picked 4 goals of where I wanted to be when I got old at 30, because at 13, 30 seemed old. And it was financially, what do I want to look like financially? By the age of 30, what do I want to look like as a business person? What do I want to look like education-wise? And where do I want to be with my family? Do I want to be married? Do I want kids? And all of that will take place by the age of 30. And now I know what success is. I know what there is. And once you understand that, and, Stephen Covey said it better than me, begin with the end in mind. So then all I needed to do was kind of go backwards and say, what do I need to do between 13 and 14, 14 and 15? So I've been doing this process for 60 years, an intentionally led life. So when you give that intro, with all of those crazy things that were accomplished, well, there's a whole heck of a lot more. Over 300 items on my bucket list have been checked off, and I have plenty more to go. But it's because I sat down and said, what is it that I want to do with my life? Yeah.
So, you tell that story when you were 13, and I want to dig into that a little bit. So I know this, but I'd love to share with the viewers here, how did you go? Tell them the story about what you did when you were 13 years old to interview those people, and how you got the attention of these very successful people.
Yeah. So you've got to understand a little bit about my background. As you know, I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and I'm 74 years old. All my brothers and sisters are still alive, but we're all aging out, right? And we lived in a house with 1 toilet, with 5 kids and 2 adults, the parents. In other words, we were blue collar, just making the bills get paid every month. And I took a caddying job at the private country club, and I thought I knew what the job was: carry the clubs, find the ball, clean the ball, rake the trap, tend the pin. But within a week, I realized there were people playing golf during the week. Like, my dad worked 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. He never played golf. He barely was able to feed us and house us. And these people are in their 30s and 40s and 50s, and they're playing golf on Wednesday. They're playing on Friday. The same guys are playing on the weekend. They're arriving in upscale cars. I mean, we had a 9-passenger station wagon with over 200,000 miles on it, and it was in the garage getting fixed more than used. And I'm going, these guys are living a much better life than what we are. And if I went to my dad and said, how do you do it? Well, if he knew, he would be doing it. So he didn't know. And so I decided I need to ask these guys how they became successful. But I had this mindset that said, but if I knocked on their office door and said, can I pick your brain? They'd probably turn me down. By the way, now as an adult, I can tell you that if a teenager asked me that question, I invite them in and spend as much time as I could with them. But my mindset said, nobody that's this successful would entertain me. But they came to the golf course, and I walked next to them for 4 to 4.5 hours. So I just made a list of questions, and I practiced in front of the mirror in the bathroom. That was difficult when you got 7 people with one bathroom, but there I am practicing my questions. And so as I walked the golf course, I had the questions, and look, imagine me doing that with you today.
Yeah.
And you come in after playing 18 holes, you go into the clubhouse to have a beer, you see a friend of yours, and what are you going to say? Hey, did you ever have that Daly kid carry your back? Oh, yeah. Did he ask you the questions? And so these very successful people invested in me. I just feel an incredible amount of gratitude because they set me early on a good course of discovery. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that goes to the point where they say surround yourself with the right people. So, and you took the initiative.
Yeah. Look, I think you have to broaden your perspective and not be narrow, particularly early in life, or you miss out, right? The school system, for example, was telling me when I got to junior year in high school that I had to take chemistry and trig. But in my goals, it said I wanted to be the CEO of a business that was national in size by the age of 30. And I'm going, chemistry and trig ain't going to add anything to the party. So I challenged the school and said, that's just not going to do me good service. I want bookkeeping and business law. And back then, this is in the 60s, they're telling me, well, that's not college prep. That's the commercial. That's the, more girls are in that than guys. And I said, but look, here's my goals. And because I had those goals in writing, the principal eventually said, 1 out of 1,000 kids would have this. We're going to make you an exception and give you what you want.
Wow.
And I wouldn't have been able to take that on without the advice of the people that were successful. And then, as you say, I took the action and did something with the advice.
So fast forward, you've now become a successful executive. You've launched a bunch of companies. And I remember you sharing this story about being super successful and making that transition from executive running companies and kind of having it all to coach. And I think that'd be a great little story to share with
Wow. So my entire industry, which was financial services, when I, at 46 years old, one of the top 20 recognizable people in the United States in financial services, with jet, it's at my disposal, and helicopter on the roof of my building, and high profile guy, right? Decides I'm not enjoying this anymore. I've got thousands of employees. It's not fun for me anymore. And I think life should be more about having fun and having passion. I think that's what causes you to be successful. And so I unplugged and said, I'll take a year off and figure out what I'm going to do next. And all of a sudden my phone started ringing and people say, hey, if you're not doing anything, can you speak to this group and that group and this company? And after about 3 months, I told my wife, Bonnie, I'm really having fun doing this. I think I'm going to do some more of it. And she said, God bless, just do something to get out of this house. You'll drive me nuts, right? And so that was it. I'm still a professional speaker, and I buckled on CEO coaching 6 years ago. But that's where I've been, and I'm still massively passionate about it. But here's the thing behind the curtain. My first year, I went from having all of the trinkets with a lot of money thrown at me to where I didn't make $100,000, and I was working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, trying to figure out this speaker business type of thing. And I had executive search firms approaching me every week saying, we've got another big financial gig for you. Just come on over and take this. And I just said, I'm not going to be happy at it. And fortunately for me, Bonnie was always very supportive and just said, you aren't happy doing it anymore. I want you to be happy. Do what's going to make you happy. You'll figure out the financial side of it. And after about 3 years of heavy lifting, I broke through and figured out how to make it work. Yep.
Yeah. So how many, I'm sure you've kept track of this. How many speaking gigs have you done? Do you have an idea?
Well, let's just do it really easy. So if I've been at it for 30 years, I average 100 speaking gigs a year because I won't sleep in a hotel for business more than 100 days a year.
Right.
So if we just did round numbers, 30 years times 100 would give me 3,000.
3,000. Wow.
Yeah.
And that's all around the world. And recently, I just know you just recently came back from India.
Yeah.
And
Actually, 2019, Bob, prior to the pandemic, 250,000 air miles in over 30 countries.
Wow.
Was a typical year. And yeah, in March of this year, I was 9 cities in India, one in Bangladesh, and one in Sri Lanka. Yeah.
And so when you're speaking, what, you're talking about life by design, you're talking about sales, you're talking about CEO coaching. What's the common thread that you see with your audience that is the big aha that you're able to deliver to them? In 30 years of speaking, is there one or two common threads that?
Yeah, I'm glad that you said more than one.
Yeah.
So it'd be really hard to say this is the one, right? So having a destination, I'm going to call that a goal.
Yes.
Having a firm understanding of that, that's one of the keys, right? We all get, and you've heard this from me many times over the years, we all start this week with the same number of hours, 168. But some of us are getting more out of our 168 than others. And so you can get more out of your 168 hours every week if it's being deployed in the things that are going to get you where you want to go. But you have to know where that is, which goes back to having an end zone, having a goal. So that's one of those things. And then the second thing that I would tell you is discipline. Doing what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, whether you want to or not. And so people that know me and hear me and hang with me, besides the word energy and enthusiasm, the other word that I hear is, wow, you're incredibly disciplined, right? Look, this is with me all the time. I didn't put this on my desk because we're going to do a podcast. It's just with me all the time. But this tool I have been using for 60 years. Now, I know there are apps out there and all that, but inside here, there's my goals for this year. And they're in writing by the first of the year. This is not my business. This is everything I want to do this year in my personal life. And it goes on for 2.5 pages. Before the first of the year, I put this up on my website for the entire world to see at jackdalysales.com. I give hard copies to 5 people that I call the board of directors of my life who meet with me at least 4 times a year, one-on-one. So that's 5 people, 20 times a year. That there's not a month that goes by where somebody isn't holding me accountable. And in here, I write down every day, every single thing I do that day that relates to anything that are in those goals. And then at the end of the month, I have my high payoff activities of my goals and month by month tracking. And I can look at where I was last year for a month-to-month, year-to-year lookup. And like I said, this has been going on for 60 years. Now, people look at it and they go, I don't have the discipline. I don't have the time. Well, forget about the time. It's less than 5 minutes a day to do this. So it's not about the time. But holding yourself accountable and having other people hold you accountable, that's a different story. And look, you have an incredible family. you were, I live in Southern California. You were visiting San Diego. We were blessed for you to have time to spend with us on your way to San Diego with your family. And so I gifted the Baga family my Life by Design book, and one of your sons, and how old? Tell me.
I think he was 11 at the time.
Yeah. So he ends up reading the book and writes me an email and says, "Mr. Daly, I don't know whether you remember me, but and I really appreciate your book. It's really made an impact on me. I know it was written for adults, but I'm just going to tell you, I have 3 goals right now. One, I want to start a business." I mean, he's 11. I want to start a business. 2, I want to read 50 or more books a year. And 3, I want to get straight A's in all my courses. I'm working on some more, but I just wanted to tell you the book was really impactful. That's the most, if that was the only person on the planet that did anything as a result of this book, it was worth writing. Wow. What a gift.
That was, that's a great mindset. And we setting goals and taking action. We do that in our business every day, but sometimes, what you're talking about in your life, it's just as important, and life can go by so quickly I call it transactional, right?
Yep.
And we miss out on these things.
Hey, look, at the age of 28 in my goals, I put down I was going to live to 125. Okay. And everybody laughed at me and all the rest of that. By the way, today, science is telling us we're going to see humans go that distance. But what I figured out at 28 was, if I could take care of myself physically and eat the right things, do the exercise, get all the doctor appointments, I would tip the scale in my favor.
Yeah.
And if I handed somebody a 75-year-old in great shape, they might invest in science. But if I handed them a broken down 75-year-old guy, they wouldn't invest in science. So here I am knocking on the door of 75. I'm 74. But here's my deal this morning. I woke up at 5 a.m. By 5:30, I was in my gym at the house. I spent an hour on the rower. Then I went outside and ran 5 miles to and back from the gym. I worked out when I was in between those 2.5 miles both ways, and worked out for 45 minutes on the strength apparatuses. Then I had breakfast. Then I knocked out 2 rides on my Peloton bike, and I'm still intending on doing something at the end of the day physically. So I'm a 3-hour a day on average taking care of this person. I have the same number of hours as you.
It's incredible.
What's important to us? Look, these goals of health and fitness starts here, and the subset goes all the way through 20 bullet points of the things that I set as my goals in fitness.
That's incredible. And recently, when you talk to your doc, I know you go to the doctors and they're like, you've got you're healthier than most, like 40-year-olds was that what they said?
Yeah. My 2 kids are 44 and 52. And the last time the doctors, I had 3 different doctors with specialties in different things. They all got their results, and we got around a round table, the 4 of us, and they collectively said, you're the equivalent of like a 40-year-old guy. And I came home and told my 2 kids, you're 44 and 52. I could kick your ass. But look, all we can do is put ourselves in a position of an advantage, right?
Yeah.
But life doesn't work perfect for us, right? So April 1st, 2020, now think about that. That's about 2 weeks after lockdown for the COVID. I ended up being diagnosed with stage 3 malignant melanoma on the top of my head. And the doctor said, we need to get you in within a couple of weeks and take that stuff off of you. And that's surgery. And I'm going, well, I'm watching the TV and there's a lot of people going in the hospital and they ain't coming back out. Yep. So I think I'm going to delay. And he said, well, that's your choice. But if we wait 4 to 6 weeks to have the surgery, you may not have to worry about it because you'd be dead. And so I'm like, you make a compelling argument. So let's schedule the surgery. So we went in and I got that done and they said, I'm clean. And then 8 months later, it came out of my neck. And then I had to go through 54 weeks of cancer treatment, having infusions and all the rest of that. And 6 months ago, I was declared cancer-free again. 10 days ago, I had a PET scan and a CT scan, and they can't find any cancer in me. So I feel grateful and blessed. And the doctor said there were 3 reasons why I'm cancer-free right now. One was the advancements in science. So the drug that I was on was called Keytruda, and the doctors are referring to it as a miracle drug. And then he said, secondly, we've never seen a guy your age come into this hospital in the physical condition you are. But he said, if you want the game changer, it's your attitude. They said, the doctor said, it was as if you never had cancer. Like you just went about your life and said, what do I need to do? And then you led your life like a normal guy would lead his life. And so my doctor says I need to see him twice a year, not for me, but for him, because he wants my positive attitude injected into him.
Your attitude determines your altitude.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's truth to it.
Well, yeah. And, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And I think that is so important in anything we do. I see that in business and certainly for the doctors to say that for your diagnosis, that's a big deal in itself.
Hey, listen, look, at 58 years old, I decided to do the Ironman. Now, 2.4 mile swim on the clock, 112 mile bike on the clock, and a 26.2 mile run on the clock. And I told my friends when I was 58, I'm going to do the Ironman this year, and they're going, you're a nutcase. And I'll go, why? And they say, you're too old. And I'm going, well, I saw a guy who was in his 70s that did the Ironman, and I'm only 58. And I said, if you want to tell me I'm a nutcase, well, maybe that's true because I don't know how to swim. And so I didn't know how to swim at 58, but I hired a coach, and I learned best practices, and then I practiced. And then I went on in the next 8 years to do 15 full Ironmans, including the Ironman World Championship in Hawaii, and made Team USA to compete against 60 countries in the triathlon sport. That's attitude.
100%. And
attitude.
Your first marathon was you were over 50 as well, right?
I was 46.
Sorry, 26. Okay.
46. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. Let's move to business. So you work with hundreds, if not thousands of entrepreneurs. You've seen them, connected with them, seen different businesses. What are the, in running a business, what are some practical tools, people that are watching this, that things that they could do, whether it's sales, they're setting goals, obviously, and planning, but what are some takeaways that, we could look at? People could go home tonight and start working on and thinking about, okay, these are things that you could be implementing to grow your business.
So there's a saying that I have that I've followed most of my life. If you want to learn to do anything well, go find people that have already figured it out and learn from them. I call it model the masters. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm a voracious reader. I've loved readings ever since I was taught to read as a kid. The Hardy Boys would come out, and as soon as they came out, I would buy the Hardy Boys, right? And I worked ever since I was 7 years old so that I could buy books. And so last year, I read 104 books. 75-80% of those were business, and I don't have a business anymore, but I want to stay current and stay on the cutting edge. And so I would tell people, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur or business owner, read this book. The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. I think it's the quintessential book that enable an entrepreneur to be successful. Many of us have heard the expression, working on your business rather than in your business. It came out of the E-Myth. And the E in the E-Myth stands for entrepreneur. And the myth is we get the idea of starting a business, and then that's the last idea we got. And now we're working for a company that we would never choose to work for, long hours and all kinds of things. So the first thing is, how about modeling the masters? So I would do the E-Myth, and then the other book that I would recommend is Scaling Up by Vern Harnish, because he just gives you the systems and processes covering all of the disciplines of what a good business person needs to be really focused on as an owner, as a leader. Now, beyond those two books, I would tell your audience there's three things when I'm coaching my clients that I'm hammering on. One of them is, what's the vision? I can't help you get where you want to be if you can't articulate what it is that you want to be. And I don't make any judgments about what the vision is. I just need to know what it is. Is it you want to build a $5 million business? You want to build a $50 million business, a $100 million business? You want to build it and sell it? Like, give me an idea of what we're trying to achieve.
What are we trying to make?
Right? So that's one. The second, I know I'm only going to give you three. Yeah. The second thing is key people and key spots. If I ever look back on the 6 companies that I started that all went nationwide, it was the leadership team that I assembled that enabled us to really get the job done. I saw myself as the visionary. I saw myself as the cheerleader of the company, but the company arguably could be successful without any day-to-day involvement on my part. So I never got in the weeds, and I was able to see above the weeds, which enabled us to take advantage of opportunities. And then the third thing was the culture of the company. And when I talk about creating a winning culture, I'm talking about creating an environment in your business where people don't get up and say they have to go to work, but they get up and say, hot damn, I get to go to work at this company. Yeah. What could you do to create that kind of an environment? Because if you can create that kind of an environment, you have a competitive, sustainable advantage.
100%. I heard something. Did you hear that, Jack?
Yeah, I did.
Was that you or me?
That wasn't me.
Oh, we heard something, Jay, that came in. Anyways, we're good. Okay, so the third, so we had vision, key people and key spots, and culture.
Yeah.
And culture, and now you have your team, it just becomes a self-propelling engine that continues to grow, and you have more growth out of that.
Yeah, and you know what? I said I'll give you 3.
Yeah.
I would be remiss if I didn't cover sales a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm known as, is the sales guy in the universe.
Yep.
Here's the miss. The miss by most companies is they don't have a sales playbook. They don't have best practices identified and then have the salespeople practice best practices. Here's the way I explain it, Bob. My largest sales force was 2,600 salespeople. And, they were operating in the United States out of over 100 locations. And I would visit these locations and just say, hey, gang, there aren't 2,600 best ways to sell this stuff. What do you say we figure out the best way, build the systems and processes, practice the systems and processes, and I bet you we outperform anybody we compete with. Sports teams are run better than most businesses. If you look at a sports team, they've got a playbook, they practice the playbook, and they have a coach that's actively involved on the field. Now, 98 out of every 100 companies that are in contact with me initially do not have a sales playbook. That means that every salesperson is doing their own thing. That's just insanity, right? Yep. The second thing is they don't practice. Now, if you're not practicing as a salesperson, that means the only place you're practicing is on real deals. Now, can you imagine a sports coach saying, we'll practice on the next team that's coming in to play us. Like, it's just farcical, okay? And the best people in anything in life got to be best by practicing. And then the third thing is the coach is active in the field. Well, when I see the guys that are in charge of running a sales organization, male, female, when I use the word guys, I don't care how you're plumbed. But what I do see is too many sales managers, the chief revenue officer, whatever we're going to call them, they're spending time behind a computer and sitting in their office. We've got to go out belly to belly with our salespeople and visit our customers and our prospects to upgrade the playbook and to make things happen. That's how every sports coach gets to be, that we're at the level of a winning team.
Invest and coach and
Yeah.
make sure that they're following it through. One of my favorite things that you said, and I say this a lot, is in sales, you said the best salespeople stop selling or something.
Absolutely. Look, no one that I've ever met enjoys having somebody try to sell them something. So if nobody enjoys that, then if I'm a salesperson, I ought to learn to not do that. But if I'm a salesperson, now I'm confused because I thought I was supposed to sell. So I just changed the definition and I tell people, no, your job is to help them to buy. Yep. The subtle difference between selling somebody something and helping them buy is profound. The only way you can help somebody is by figuring out whether they need you or not. How do they need you? So the very best salespeople, they don't sell, they just ask questions. And if they find something that's something that they can help them with, then they feel an obligation to say, hey, I can help you here. And by the way, I subscribe to helping the prospect, even if they don't buy my stuff.
Yeah.
Like I refer out 30% of all the business that comes in. 30% go to other people because I think they'd be better at it than me. It'll come back.
Helping them buy, not selling.
You bet. At the end of the day, selling is the transfer of trust. People do business with people they trust.
Yep.
Well, what better way to get people to trust you than to discover what they need and somehow help them with it?
Fulfill it.
And many times it's going to be our product or our service, and sometimes it's not going to be.
Yeah.
But if I help you and you need me for something else, you're going to come to me and nobody else, because we've already established the trust. And by the way, the most beautiful thing that you can have as a salesperson is a high proportion of referral business.
Yeah.
Right? Because that comes with trust from the person who gave the referral. Well, that guy's referring them, then he must be good. She must be good. So creating trust is what it's all about.
So what in sales and in growing, helping people find their needs, what have you seen change? Like, one of the things I've seen now is email. So everybody's on email all the time, and we used to be always on the phone, and that kind of drives me nuts. I say email is great for transactions. It's great for sharing documents and quotes and things like that, but you're not going to build a relationship over email. And we've got, we're trying to reach out, touch thousands of people or hundreds of people, and there's technology. How do you balance the kind of new way of doing business and leveraging that, but still being able to keep that intimacy? Because I think that's where trust gets built. And, it'll drive me nuts when I just, you don't hear anybody in the phone, and you just hear the typing going away and nobody's talking to anybody. And I feel like it's not happening the way it could be.
Yeah. Look, I can't get out of using one-liners, having been a speaker for close to 30 years. Here's one. Too many salespeople call on too many people that don't deserve to be called on.
Yep.
Let's go with the corollary to that. The better salespeople call on less people and write more business. The key is they call on the right people.
The right ones.
So I do CEO coaching all over the world. We primarily do it over the phone or over some kind of Zoom environment. And so many of my clients, I want to know, give me all your clients. Tell me what the list looks like. And I want you to give them to me from the most important, the one that gives us the most business, to the least. And so often when I look at that listing, what I discover is the salespeople are spending a disproportionate amount of time on people that aren't generating any real business for us.
Yep.
So I'll give you a client of mine in Houston. I asked for that listing. It was 40 pages with 25 per page. That's about 1,000 customers.
Yep.
The first dozen were doing $500,000 to $1 million a year in business, each one with that company. And then it started to go down. But by the second or third page, we were down to like accounts that were giving us $10,000 of business for the year. Well, can you imagine what the 35th page or 40th page of this thing, like $100 or something, right? And when I asked how the salespeople are calling on them, they said they're calling on them equally. Well, how many people that would qualify to be in that top 12 category exist in your market? And my client said, probably another 100. And so I just said, we're not going to call on the back 30 pages anymore. We're going to only call on the top 10 pages. And then we're going to want our salespeople to almost move in with those other 100 companies, and we'll start picking them up. Well, a year later, my client for 6 consecutive months set all-time records.
Wow.
And the 6-month period was more revenue than any full year period in the 14-year history of the company. The salespeople were making more money. The company was making more money. The customers they had were happier because they're being attended to. All of these magical things happened. And we see it over and over and over again. And by the way, Bob, I don't necessarily blame the salespeople. In many ways, the leadership is telling them, I'm going to measure you based on how many calls did you make today?
Right.
Well, it ought to be, how many quality interactions have you had with the clients?
Segment your customers. And
I can remember 20-some years ago, one of the biggest banks in America was based in New York, and they asked me to come in and help get the sales conversion rate up.
Yeah.
So I started listening to the calls, and they're not spending enough time on the phone with a prospect. So I said, look, you guys need to spend more time with your prospects. And, and all of a sudden, we started closing a lot of deals, conversion rate more than triple in a relatively short period of time. The leadership of the bank called me up to the top floor. I'm thinking in the elevator, these guys are going to bonus me or give me some kind of an award. I've done such a great job. And they started screaming at me because the bank's phones were lit up with angry customers because they were all going into the system and it was saying, all of our agents are busy. We'll get back to you. And so they abandoned the call. And so they said, you're spending too much time on the phone. And I said, no, that's not the problem. Our revenues are up. Our conversion rate is up. All these good things are happening, which is what you asked me to do. Here's your two choices. You can either turn the marketing down, or you can put their butts in the seats of salespeople.
Yeah.
But let's not measure success on how short you make the call.
Yeah.
Because here's what I could do. I could be there and go, hi, bye, and I'll be the shortest calls on the team. I won't do any business.
Yep.
Right? So your point about go deep and build relationships is the key.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, you've used our service BizX.
Yep.
and we've done some business together. What and you've utilized it. I'd love to, and before we close out here, get your thoughts on how, what do you think are some of the benefits, or how a business could utilize it or leverage it in trying to get to what they need to do?
Look, uh, the easiest thing from my perspective when you think about BizX is I'm going to get business that I historically haven't gotten previously because of the power of the membership. There's so much variety in the membership that if I just took the time to see the offerings and to realize that I could access all of these different things, both on the business side and personal side. And I've done both.
Yeah.
And so I've become a star with my new wife, Karen, because I lost Bonnie to cancer 6 years ago. And I like she's never had jewelry like I'm giving her, but I'm doing it like without the use of cash.
Yeah, well, we like to say new customers and better cash flow. So if if you look at, optimizing your capacity or your time within a business, and you've been able to get new customers that you normally wouldn't have had.
Yeah, the business side, it's without digging into my pocket.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just wow. And to me, it's all incremental.
Yeah.
The people that I've bought jewelry for, as to continue with that one example, that person, that they're not geographically near me. I wouldn't have known they existed.
Yeah.
And they would not have been able to find me either.
Yeah.
But just by being a part of the membership, we both benefited. And whatever those BizX dollars that I invested in that jewelry, that person now has in their account to use in their business in any number of ways, whether that's copiers or office supplies or, a myriad of things that they could be utilizing it for.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
So, before we close out, there's one thing I want to go through, because you mentioned earlier, you put your goals up on the screen, in your book, and then you share them. But I'm just pulling them up over here, so I'm gonna just run through a few, if that's okay.
Sure, okay. Of course.
So 2022, Jack Daly, the tale of the tape. Workout days, 314, 219 wine days, 5,692 steps in case per day, 2,605 miles, 578 exercise hours, 52 rest hours, 1,019 run hours. 1,019 run miles, 259 run hours, 687 Peloton miles, 44 hours in Peloton hours, 164 Peloton rides, 99 golf rides, 85 books, 193 movies, 224 note cards, 51 gigs, 59 dress up nights, and 57 family and friends get together. And there's actually even more. So it's just incredible, the amount of detail, and it truly is a life by design, and is such a model to be an inspiration to be able to look at.
Yeah, Bob, I would be remiss if I did alert the viewers on this. Look, I'm not trying to sell a book here. Go to my website, which is jackdalyslifebydesign.com. And what you'll find is that half of the book is an appendix with all of the templates, the forms I show you filled out with my life, and then you can download the blanks.
Yeah.
And all of that is sitting there free. So half of this book, the first half is the narrative. The second half is the appendix. There's over 100 pages in this book.
Yeah.
And we put it all on the website for people to just, you don't need to buy the book. That's about my life.
Yeah.
Just go to the website, download it, and build yourself a plan.
We should maybe we'll buy some books from you, and maybe we'll do a little contest and give some away. So maybe that'd be a fun thing to do as well for viewers. Um, Jack, we talk regularly once or twice a month and keep in touch. And I really appreciate your friendship, your inspiration, and all the things that you do. That's touched not only me and, as you know, my family. So we're very, very lucky to have you in our lives, and appreciate the time.
Hey, you know that the feeling runs both ways. And when I did the book launch for Life by Design, you and one of your sons came down and he provided entertainment for the crowd that we had about 100 people. But on top of it, you gifted me this saber that was personalized so that I could saber a champagne, which I had never done before. And it was on my bucket list. So there's a message there for salespeople. You went and leveraged the internet, looked at my bucket list and said, I'm going to get a saver for this guy, and he'll check a item off his bucket list. And that saber is prominently displayed in our wine tasting room at our house.
That was a lot of fun that night. But it also goes to the fact that share your goals with everybody, because if people know what your goals are, they will try to help you achieve them if they can.
Look, you're a YPO member. I had a YPO member check out my goals on my website, and he emailed me and said, hey, you want to fly a jet fighter plane? Have you got that done? And I said, no. And he said, well, I own a jet fighter plane that I bought from the Air Force. And so all we need to do is figure out where and when. Up inside the book, there's a picture of me sitting in the jet fighter plane. Yeah. And without flying instructions, I flew a jet fighter plane. Now, that guy can't help me if I don't know what I want to do in life, and then I don't go broadcast it.
Put it in the universe.
Absolutely.
Well, Jack, so much fun, and looking forward to seeing you later this summer. And I could be here all day for another 2 hours, I'm sure. You need to go meet Karen for a round of golf, I think, right?
I do. Okay.
So
Absolutely.
please give her my best, and thank you.
Hey, give the family my best, and we'll see you at the end of the summer.
See you soon. Bye.